Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be going over the high yield dividend portfolio that's on Robinhood. And I'm going to kind of just explain what happened this week and kind of give you guys my own thoughts behind everything. If you guys like this type of content, please remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell. I do go live most days, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to get in on those lives and join the conversation, then, you are invited. So real quick, let me just explain what's been going on. This week we started off really bad, right? This week we were down on the S&P 500 almost 2.5%, which, anytime the S&P 500 moves up or down a percent, you can tell that we're either going to have a really good day or a really bad day. And when we started off Monday, it was obviously a very, very bad day. I've had this portfolio for a little while, and some of you guys may know if you've been following it, that I am extremely leveraged. I have a lot of margin on this portfolio. To be exact, I put $100,000 in cash into this portfolio, and then I took, basically $94,000 worth of margin out, right, to buy all these other ETFs. So this could be very stressful, especially when you're investing and we're experiencing market downturns or pullbacks or whatever. I saw this portfolio drop down as low as $62,000, which was super scary, right? Super scary. I think I was only like about $8,000 or $10,000 away from a margin call, and it looked like we were just going to go lower and lower. So when we started off the week on Monday, that was when President Trump was talking about firing Jerome Powell and all this, flurry of news, negative news was coming out, especially with China and trade and everything else. And it was just, causing the markets to sell off. And everything looked like it was going to continue into the week. So I ended up selling out of PLTW, which is my Palantir Weekly Pay ETF from Roundhill. And I'm very bullish on this, all right? I mentioned this on my live stream on Monday that I had sold out of it because I wanted to be able to sleep well at night. I didn't want to be stressed out, especially when you have margin stacked on top of everything or debt stacked on top of everything. It can get pretty stressful. So I sold out of PLTW basically to have cash available, some dry gunpowder to just weather the storm. And, I did not know, or unbeknownst to me, that we would have a huge rally the rest of this week. So the S&P 500 rose 8.22%. That is huge, right? That is a huge gain. Will it continue? I have no idea. Palantir rose 20%. Okay. Palantir by itself rose 20%. So I missed out on all those gains from, PLTW, missed out on everything. But, I wasn't upset about it. It is one of those things. It's one of those mistakes that you make and live and learn from, right? You have to look at this stuff in hindsight. And I could have done things a little better. Absolutely, I could have done things a little better. The original plan, in case I was going to be facing a margin call, the original plan was to sell out of CHPY, which is a Yieldmax semiconductor ETF. So because I was breaking even with PLTW and CHPY was taking a loss at that time, I decided to sell out of PLTW, which was a stupid mistake in hindsight. I should have stuck with the plan and just sold out of CHPY to raise cash in case, or to prevent my portfolio from going into a margin call. So a margin call is not the end all be all, right? It's not the end of the world. When you get into a margin call, basically your account is in a deficit. And what they'll do is, they'll either ask you to put money in the account to bring it up to baseline, or they'll start selling shares. And that's what really scared me a lot, was the selling of shares, right? Because if we're in a down market and everything is falling and now I'm forced to sell, I would be forced to sell at a loss to satisfy the account deficit. And that is not good. That would not be good. I want to sell whenever I want to sell. So again, sold PLTW to have some dry gunpowder and to basically have a cushion to weather the storm. So we ended up rallying this whole week. So I missed out on a lot of gains, and today I bought back into PLTW, and I already have an $850 gain. I put $25,000, which was basically the original investment that I took out in the beginning of the week, and I put it back in. So I lost about 100 shares, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. In hindsight, really the lesson here was to stick to the plan. I had a plan to sell out of CHPY in case things got spicy. I didn't. Instead, I sold PLTW out of fear. So the lesson is, stick to a plan. And not only that, it's not binary, right? It's not sell out of everything or hold everything. There is a middle option, right? There's a third option there. I could have easily sold out of PLTW. I could have sold half of it and kept the other half. That would have created a huge margin of safety for me. But I didn't because I thought, I have to sell all of it. I don't know why I thought that, but just for anyone listening, always think of another option. There's always more options out there. Investing is funny, right? It just makes you think. It just screws up your thinking, especially when you have margin involved and the sky is falling. So anyways, bought back into PLTW. I'm very long Palantir. When I sold out of it, during my live stream, a lot of people were asking if I'm still bullish on Palantir. What was the reason for selling out of it, things like that. I'm still very, excuse me, I'm still very bullish on Palantir. They just secured a NATO contract in Europe, which is huge. I think people are underestimating how big that is. Prior to that, they had 2 or 3 additional contracts with the commercial sector, specifically the finance sector in Europe. So again, Palantir breaking into the European market is going to be a huge tailwind for this company. And they are the premier defense artificial intelligence company. There is no other stock, no other AI company that comes close to what Palantir is already doing. So I think they have a lot more room to grow. We're already reaching close to all-time highs again. Their all-time high was $124 a share. And right now, they're sitting at $112. They had a huge run up this week. And I think, because they have earnings coming up in May, I think they're going to crush those earnings. And this is going to send the stock flying, right? So don't take this as financial advice to buy anything related to Palantir. Of course, do your own due diligence. But I did publish a video some time ago on my base case for why Palantir is, the stock to own, right? I published my own thesis on that. So other than that, that was pretty much the big news, the big moves in this portfolio. Right now, we're up, a lot. We were down 68,000, and right now we're up $10,000. $82,000. But really, like I said, when you stack margin on top of this, I'm not sure how much the actual gains would be, but we're sitting pretty. We're sitting pretty is what I'm trying to say. Hopefully we'll have next week. We'll have a lot more good news. There's a lot of news around the Secretary of Treasury, working out trade deals. There's still the China thing that's the China trade deal that's hanging in the air. Hopefully the president, won't try to fire the Federal Reserve Chair anymore. And we'll just continue to have good news into next week, especially with earnings coming up. You still have the remainder of the Mag 7 that has their earnings. Google and Tesla just did theirs, and their stocks popped. We still have Amazon to go, and I think NVIDIA is coming up. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I know Meta is coming up. So hopefully they'll crush their earnings, or at least provide better guidance on the way ahead. Because right now everyone is looking at the Mag 7 for guidance, right? If they're going to be hammered by all this tariff stuff. So let's get a little more deeper into the portfolio. So I also have XDTE and XPay. These are 2 ETFs that track the S&P 500. So they've kind of just been going up and down with the S&P 500. I do have a nice dividend coming from XDT, $500. So I'm going to be using that money to probably buy more CHPY because I want to increase the position in CHPY. CHPY is a Yieldmax semiconductor ETF, and I only have 94 shares right now. So I'd like to get that up to realistically maybe a couple hundred. I want to get this up to at least $15,000. Right now it's sitting at about 4,500. So it still has a long way to go. So I'm going to just be buying shares. I'm very bullish on the semiconductor space. I did a whole video on this already, so you guys can check that out if you're interested. And for NVW, which is the NVIDIA Weekly Pay ETF from Roundhill, it's a 1-2x levered ETF. This had a huge run this week, a huge run. So I'm still down, from when I bought in. But, this ETF NVIDIA had a huge run this week. And I think they're going to continue having a great run. a lot of people keep talking about this AI bubble. It popped, it's over with, get over it, move on. But I disagree, and I disagree vehemently, because the future is going to include a lot of artificial intelligence. NVIDIA has basically cornered that entire market. That is it. They cornered the entire market. They own the best hardware. They create the best hardware, and they have the best ecosystem for researching and developing artificial intelligence. So again, I think NVIDIA has a lot more room to grow, and I think getting in, even right now at these prices, is still a good entry point. Don't ask me how far the stock is going to go, or how much it's going to increase, or any of that. I don't really do that kind of call or whatever, those types of signals. I'm more of a story driven investor. I like the story behind the stock, and I like the story behind NVIDIA, and I like the story behind Palantir. So if you wanted to take advantage of software, Palantir. If for artificial intelligence, if you wanted to take advantage of hardware, well, NVIDIA. So those are my thoughts on this. The portfolio is doing really well, and it's produced a pretty decent amount of dividend income this month. So I'll be doing another video on the total amount at a later time. But I also got into PLTW today for another reason. So the dividend is going to be paid out on Tuesday, but today was their declaration day. So Saturday is their ex-dividend day. So I wanted to get in on this ETF so I can be able to capture that dividend. So that dividend should be about $360, if I'm not mistaken. It's 50 cents a share, and I have 660 shares. So I should be getting about $360 dividend amount. So again, very happy with how this portfolio has been trending this week. Very happy with the picks. Again, the whole idea behind this portfolio is not capital gains. That's also where I made a mistake in selling PLTW. The whole idea behind this portfolio is to produce distributions, to produce income that I can use that income either to pay bills, or I can use that to reinvest back into the portfolio and pick up other shares or build other positions. So that's really the idea behind this whole portfolio. So selling out of PLTW was kind of a mistake, but again, everything is hindsight, and what I could have done, I didn't do. But again, I'm going to keep that in the back of my pocket. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this type of content, please let me know down below in the comment section. And again, if you want to join in on the streams, please hit that subscribe and notification bell. I also have a Discord in case you're interested in understanding kind of the whole high yield space and how I was able to build this portfolio. You guys can check that out in the Discord. So outside of that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.